Good morning, everyone. My name is Evan. I'm one of the ministers at St Mary's Anglican Church, and today for Psalm a Day, we're looking at Psalm 26. Let's read it. Get stuck into it, hey? Of David. Vindicate me, O Lord, for I have led a blameless life. I have trusted in the Lord without wavering. Test me, O Lord, and try me. Examine my heart and my mind, for your love is ever before me, and I walk continually in your truth. I do not sit with deceitful men, nor do I consort with hypocrites. I abhor the assembly of evildoers, and refuse to sit with the wicked. I wash my hands in innocence, and go about your altar, O Lord, proclaiming aloud your praise, and telling of all your wonderful deeds. I love the house where you live, O Lord, the place where your glory dwells. Do not take away my soul along with sinners, my life with bloodthirsty men, in whose hands are wicked schemes, whose right hands are full of bribes. But I lead a blameless life. Redeem me and be merciful to me. My feet stand on level ground. In the great assembly, I will praise the Lord. Wow, what a lovely psalm for today. And sort of wrapped up in this psalm is all the sort of words that people in the Old Testament use to describe living perfectly God's way. Blameless. And there's this talk of walking continually in your truth. So being on the right path, being on the right way, not sitting with deceitful or evil men. That's a particularly strong metaphor we see throughout the Old Testament. And the metaphor, and what that is a metaphor is sitting down, sharing ideas, planning things together, consorting with, even around the dinner table, having meals with. But the big one, which is really important, which we do see quite often in the Psalms, is for the Lord to test the psalmist's heart. Test my heart. See, put me on the stand in a legal court. And let's find the truth. Let's see actually if I am someone who loves you. And I think I look at this, and I think as a Christian, this is what I aspire to be. This is what I want to be. And to be someone who maybe, well, I know I'm not going to be able to do this perfectly, but I want to aspire to be like the person who has done this perfectly, Jesus. And so all these things that the psalmists do, they're goals, they're things that I put myself on track. I know that I won't achieve them perfectly, but that's where I want to be. That's where I want to set myself. But the question that I suppose I want to ask here at this point, maybe just to take us out of the original intention of the psalm, is to think, what about this person's life makes them so accepting before God? And why I'm taking this question is I'm deliberately thinking about an issue in the New Testament, which maybe a lot of people get up in arms over, particularly the relationship between Paul's teaching in Romans and Ephesians and Galatians about salvation through faith alone, and then what James says in James 2, seemingly that actually faith without deeds is dead. And so what is this person saved by? Because he seems to just be a really good person, and that's why God should vindicate him. But if we examine the argument closely, we actually see that Paul and James are saying the same thing, but they're just in different parts of the Christian life. Paul argues that you can only be saved through faith, which is true. There's no other way that someone can be saved. You can't be good enough. You can't be religious enough. There's no way you can ever do that. It's quite clear. So instead, the only way that we can be saved is by putting our faith in Jesus, saying, actually, I'm never going to be good enough to live a life that pleases God. I'm never going to be religious enough to live a life that pleases God, but Jesus did. And so all the sin that stops me from being in relationship with God, I put my faith in Jesus to take that away from me. And so that's what happens when Jesus died on the cross. He takes our sin from us. And that faith that we are given, that is the reason, or rather, that is our, It's our entry ticket into salvation. It's given to us by God himself, and that's the only way we can get in. There's no bribes, there's no backdoor entrances, there's no secret tunnel way ins, only by that entry ticket of faith. Now, James's argument, what is James saying? Well, in James chapter 2, he says, let me read out the argument more specifically. He says, "But someone will say, 'You have faith, I have deeds. Show me your faith without deeds, and I will show you my faith by what I do. You believe that there is one God? Good. Even the demons believe that, and shut up.'" And then James goes on to use Abraham as an example of faith. And he finishes in verse 26. "As the body without the spirit is dead, so faith without deeds is dead." Now, it's no coincidence that both James and Paul use Abraham as an example for their argument, because they're actually arguing the same thing. In both of these arguments, Abraham believes in God, has faith in God, and the faith is the motivation for him to act and to do the things that God says. And so if we stick the arguments together, we start with faith. But from faith springs out our desire to do good works, do good things. And that is evidence, that is proof of the faith we have. And so James's argument is you need to have faith. But also, if you're not living out that faith in everything you do, everything you say, everything you think, then actually you don't have faith. And your faith is dead. And then you're not eligible for salvation. Now, if I become a Christian, I don't have enough time to do any good deeds, I'm still saved. Even though I haven't done anything good. That's if we were to really break down Paul's argument to its absurd limits, that's the truth. But for all of us who become Christians, not on our deathbed, then everything we do after becoming Christian should be evidence of the faith that we have. So, and this person in Psalm 26, they do a lot of good things, but are their good things the reason why he asks God to vindicate him? No. It is faith that leads him to do good things. Look at verse 3. "For your love is ever before me, and I walk continually in your truth." It's the love of the Lord and the truth of the Lord which spurs him on to do these good things. It's the love of God. It's his love of God and God's love of him that spurs him on to do those things. His faith and his love of the Lord is his motivation. And so is this man in verse 28 vindicated by his deeds, by his trusting, by his unwavering, by his not sitting with evil people? No. He is vindicated, or his blameless life in verse 1. No. He's vindicated by his faith, by the love he has for the Lord, which is the motivation for all these good things. And for me, looking at this psalm, and hopefully for you as well, looking at this psalm, the faith that you have should motivate you to do these things as well, and to desire to be like, maybe the psalmist wasn't perfect, but the one person who was able to live out this psalm perfectly, Jesus. We should desire to be like the character in this psalm, so that one day in glory will, verse 12, stand on level ground in the great assembly, and we, you and I together, praise the Lord. Grace and peace to you.